using DYOR so you don't lose money on bad projects. Hey all, Purrple here. Today I want to go over how to do your own research to find quality projects. Before we begin, none of this is financial advice. Always do your own research and never invest more than you're willing to lose. Now that that's out of the way, let's do some DYOR. I'm sure you've noticed that every YouTuber or alpha caller you know, including myself, will call something, but they always follow that up with, "This is not financial advice, do your own research." You may be thinking to yourself, well, how do I even do my own research? What does that even mean? That's what we're going to go over today. In my beginner guide, I went over how to find a potential project on Twitter, so if you still need help finding a project, check that video out first. For today, we're going to assume that you already have chosen a project that you would like and are wanting to dive deeper into. You may already have whitelist and are wondering if you should mint, or maybe you want to know if it's even worth getting a whitelist for a project you just found. As an example, I'm going to use the project Damonverse. I know little about it, but I won a whitelist in a giveaway. I'm not affiliated with this project in any way, and my thoughts and opinions are my own and can change at any time without notice. With that disclaimer out of the way, let's dive into this project together and see what we can learn. The easiest place to start, I think, is Twitter. You can see that they have 14,000 followers and the account has been made months ago. What we don't know though, based strictly on this information, is if the project really started back in November or if this account was purchased or changed since it was created. That is something to keep in mind. Also know that projects with verified blue Twitter checkmarks can also be bought, so don't assume having a verified check means much of anything. Scrolling through here, we see a tweet calling for DAOs to raid for whitelist spots. This is a good amount of engagement, but this is strictly forced engagement for whitelist. Let's find some tweets that have nothing to do with whitelist. This tweet here is showing off some of the artwork with around 50 likes, which isn't terrible. Sometimes I'll see a project that has nearly no engagement if it's not related to whitelist spots. This last tweet I want to look at is this one right here. They're celebrating their 10,000 following and giving away whitelist spots, but they have less than 100 retweets. For a project celebrating 10,000 followers, that seems a little low to me, but without any other context, we can't take too much from that. Hopping over to the website, I do like this. They've put some effort into the art here and it really grabs my attention, making me want to learn more. It's always a plus for me when a project even makes a website, as so many don't bother to or have very simple websites. This one even has a song to play. Here we learn that this is going to be a collection of 3K fully 3D images and that they want to bring knowledge of the blockchain to people who are not familiar with NFTs by making what they term a phygital platform to physically represent Web3, creating an art gallery and studio. They have a very big pitch deck that they clearly spent a lot of time on. I won't go over the whole thing, you can do that on your own time, but the main parts here show us that the art gallery that they want to make will be a physical place where people can go to see NFT art. On the roadmap mind map, they mostly just talk about launching the NFT project. That honestly doesn't tell me a whole lot. There are no time estimates either, which I do understand can be hard, but it's nice to know if we were to mint how long we should expect before we see any kind of return on our investment. When looking at a roadmap, I ideally want to see a little more detail, clear goals, and a time frame. Even though times are just estimates, I think it does help. Also make sure that if there is a timetable, they aren't going too fast. I don't want to see a project announced and then the next week they're minting. That does not give enough time to build a community, and it more than likely would be a cash grab at best or even a rug if they mint too quickly. On the other hand though, I find if a project takes months before minting, no matter how detailed the plans are, the hype ends up dying long before the mint happens. I've had whitelists on project for months and been excited, but by the time it came to mint, most people had already forgotten about the project. Most recently, I saw this with Droid Capital. They took months to mint as they were building a strong project, but when it came time to mint, it took days to mint out. Timing wasn't the only factor in this, but I do think that had a big part in why the mint went so slowly. Taking a look here at their team, they have several members all in different fields, which is good. Based just on this information alone, I would not consider them doxed, as we have no photos, LinkedIn profiles, or last names. These bios sound good, but we have no way of knowing for sure that these are true credentials. Looking at their Discord though, I can see that a few of the team is publicly doxed with LinkedIn profiles and such. When researching projects, keep in mind that another way a team can dox is through a third-party service that can privately dox the team. Just make sure that the service doxing them is a reputable doxing service. The next thing I want to look at is the art. Art is not everything in a project, but that is the first thing that people will see. When looking at the art, think about whether it would be a good PFP or not. Not all projects need to be PFPs, of course, but projects that are basically free brand advertising when anyone sees that NFT as a profile picture. Also, does it look like there was a lot of time put into the art, or does it look like someone hired a random person? Look to see if there are a lot of attributes so that NFTs look different. Also think to yourself whether that art reminds you of another project. For this project, I would say they would not make the best PFP. You could use it, but they all look very similar. That's okay though, that's not what this project is going for. The art is very nicely detailed, and given that they are 3D, it probably took a long time to create them. Just at first glance, the art reminds me a little bit of Drippies and Wobblebug because of the darker 3D art style. This is not a bad thing, but both of those projects at the time of recording this are below 2 Sol, which is under mint. Obviously, just because the art is similar doesn't mean that this project will fail, as the art is not the only factor in the success of an NFT collection. This is just something to note. That's about all I see here on the website. Let's jump onto the Discord to see if there's anything else over there. This Discord was locked at one point, but they're currently open to the public. That's actually another factor right there to look at, whether the project's Discord is public or private. A few months ago, it was very popular to see Discords be private and very small. The idea was to encourage community growth and loyalty, but that's not what always would result. We are seeing private Discords much less now. I actually found that most projects that remained private for most of the pre-mint actually didn't do as well in the long run, because without more people being in the Discord and learning about the project, the less likely people are to buy on secondary. They were not invested in the project because they didn't know anything about it, making the main driving factor to own one strictly FOMO, which doesn't last in the long run. The first thing I see on the Damonverse Discord is that there are about 5k people in the Discord compared to the 14k followers they have on Twitter. That's less than half of those on Twitter, but it could definitely be worse. Plus, this Discord used to be private and people might not even realize it's public. The next thing that catches my eye is that the mint price has been announced at 1.5 Sol for whitelist and 2 Sol for public. This also looks like the whitelist is not full yet, with around 500 behemoth spots left. The next thing I like to see is how people get whitelist, because this can tell a lot about the community. We can see that whitelist is based on engagement within the community, fan art, games, giveaways, the usual stuff. I like to see that they are handpicking community members and discouraging grinding. What I don't like to see is the projects that base their whitelist on large amount of invites. Those are usually botted anyway. I also don't like level-based whitelists. Forcing people to grind by speaking usually results in a lot of LFG, to the moon, good morning, good night. This is not conducive to building a strong community, and most likely once someone grabs a whitelist, they will not speak again, as no real conversations are being had. One last thing to consider in regards to whitelist is whether the project does too many whitelist collaborations. You've probably seen it where you go into a Discord and there's a huge list of projects that they have collabed with. Collabs are good, but if too many have been done, the whitelist will likely be filled with people that know nothing about the project and will paper hand as soon as they mint, or worse, the majority of the whitelist won't even use their whitelist spot when it comes time. These whitelist spots could have gone to real community members. It does not look like this project has done too many collabs, but as I mentioned, I won my own whitelist via a collab and knew nothing about this project until we started going through it together. Not everyone will take the time like we're doing to get to know the project before mint day. Lastly, let's take a look at their most recent announcements to see what the engagement is like and how frequently they make big updates. Here's the announcement about pricing of the NFTs, and it has around 200 reactions. They mentioned another announcement tomorrow, but the next and most recent one I see is about 2 weeks later, posted 2 days ago as of recording this, but they may have used other threads for other communication. This most recent post discusses that they are purging all the whitelist wallets and want everybody to resubmit. This only has about 70 reactions, which isn't a lot given the size of the server and the severity of the posting. This brings up another point to keep an eye on, and that's if the whitelists keep getting purged. A lot of projects have started whitelist purging those that are not active, which is fine. But what I don't like to see is many purges or weekly purges, because this starts to ruin the community vibe and even sometimes feels hostile, as many get mad when they lose the whitelist. It can be very hard to keep up with all your whitelists, and people have outside lives, so it's very easy to lose a great whitelist if you aren't paying attention. Okay, we just spent a good amount of time doing our own research on Damonverse. I'm sure you want to know what my final verdict is, but honestly I don't have one yet. If I had to decide right now, I would probably be leaning towards not minting, mainly because of the potentially long time needed to execute the roadmap and the low amount of reactions on the most recent postings. But there is not even a mint date yet, so there's plenty of time for the hype to come back, which is why you can't just do DYOR once. If a project looks like it's promising, you have to keep checking on it before mint. I know that was a lot, but honestly once you practice it won't take you very long, and you'll start to recognize certain red flags quickly in a lot of projects, so you won't even have to go as deeply as we just did. Okay, so you have a project you love, you have whitelist, or you're preparing for public mint. It's passed all your DYOR criteria and is minting tomorrow. But you're not done yet. A lot can change overnight or even in a few hours. Especially if you have to wake up in the middle of the night to mint, wake up a little earlier to make sure that the project is still a good mint. Here are a few things you should do right before mint. You can check in any alpha groups you're a part of to see if someone you trust has mentioned minting or why they're not minting. This is obviously only that person's opinion, but it's good to see what others are thinking. A lot of alpha groups have a mint calendar where people can vote for what they're minting. This can help you understand the general community thoughts on a project. Check on Twitter to see if anyone is talking about minting, or if the mint has already started, see if people are already posting their NFTs. If it's a token mint, check the famous Fox Federation token market to see how much the token is selling for. Also, don't underestimate the power of hype. The project could be amazing and you love it, but if no one is talking about it, it might not even mint out. Sometimes it's not that the project is bad, it's just that they didn't advertise well. This is not to say you can't mint something if it's not hyped. If you're passionate about the project and you can afford to take the risk, sometimes those under the radar projects over time can be huge successes. But just know that if it doesn't mint out, or the project can't complete their roadmap because they had to cut supply, there's a chance that the project could slowly die out. When a mint first starts, don't mint right away. Watch how fast it's minting. A lot of times I don't know if I'll mint until the very last minute. Make sure that you're aware of how many whitelist spots were given and how many each person can mint. If a person can mint multiple, be aware that they can sometimes drop the floor price, as people can sell multiple NFTs and still hold one. Also know if the whitelist is over allocated, so you know if you need to mint more quickly, or if you can wait until the last minutes before public starts. Even if you don't have whitelist, knowing how many were able to mint on whitelist phase can help you when public starts to know how many chose not to mint. It's common for not all the whitelist people to mint, people forget or they don't have the funds, but when the majority of whitelist people don't mint, that could be a problem. I hope I was able to clear up a few things about how to do DYOR and why it's so important to do so. Let me know in the comments below, based on the DYOR we just did on Damon's Verse, if you would mint or not and why. There are many more aspects to DYOR and other tools that you can use to make it faster and easier than what we just did. There just wasn't enough time to go over everything today. So make sure to like and subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss my next guide or Solana NFT picks, as well as to follow me on Twitter at NFT and Meta for my up-to-date in real-time thoughts on Solana NFTs. Thank you all for watching. Until next time, safe trading, Purrple out.